If you're law enforcement, stop and listen to me right now. If you're a police department that does not have an LPR system, Insight is offering the first 10 agencies, that means one agency apiece, gets one camera for free. You have to tell them that Two Cops, One Donut sent you. You heard me right. If you're a police agency that does not have an LPR system yet, or does have an LPR system, and you're not happy with the product you have, Insight is offering you a free camera. No strings attached, and they will install it. I have 10 to give out. Tell them Two Cops, One Donut sent you, or reach out to me, and I will get you in contact. If you're a business owner or an HOA, please stop and listen to me right now. If you're just listening to the audio, do yourself a favor and watch the YouTube version of this episode to get a visual of what I'm about to tell you. I want to tell you guys about Insight LPR. It's a license plate reader. If your agency, community, or business is looking to invest in LPR to help solve and deter crime or to make your community safer, Insight LPR has my vote of confidence. I've met with their team. They know their LPRs, guys. They're the real deal. They bring over 75 years of collective experience to building LPR cameras and the software that supports communities across the country. The other thing I really like about this team is how much they listen to law enforcement. They understand the importance of working together with law enforcement and getting their input as they build and innovate products and their service to match the needs of law enforcement. In other words, when I complain or have suggestions to make their damn camera better, they actually do it. The Insight LPR team is extremely passionate and takes pride in their product development, which makes their cameras some of the most durable cameras in the market. For the gear nerds out there, what that means is this stuff's made of military grade aluminum and is nitrogen purged, whatever that means. This design makes the cameras rugged and able to withstand harsh weather elements. Here's the big selling point for me. Their nighttime scan accuracy is higher than most of the leading competitors. In my opinion, this is what sets them apart. As we know, the majority of crimes occur at night, so it's critical to have high scan accuracy at night. Insight's cameras check the box with the nighttime plate read accuracy greater than 96%. 96%, guys. That's pretty freaking high. If your community is looking to invest in LPR technology, reach out to one of their experts today, or reach out to me. Tell them Two Cops, One Donut sent you. Coming up next on Two Cops, One Donut.
I was wrongfully convicted for murder. I served over 2 decades in New York prisons. In 2015, I was exonerated by the Kings County District Attorney's Office. After a lengthy investigation, they found that the evidence that sent me to prison was unreliable, and they exonerated me. But I spent over 2 decades in prison for a crime I did not commit. That's a
Damn.
short.
Gotcha. So on top of that, it isn't just the fact that you were exonerated for a crime you didn't commit. That there maybe was some corruption along the way on the police side.
Well, the detective that convicted me, there has been over 20 convictions, 20 exonerations, I should say, and people he got wrongfully convicted. He worked over 200 homicide cases, all of them are under investigation. And so far, 20 people has been exonerated. We working on a few more ourselves. So he was a road cop in a big city, and just got carried away and just started locking up a lot of people on faulty evidence, unreliable evidence. He was just about closing cases. Didn't care whether he had the right person or not.
All right, welcome back to Cops One Donut. I am your host, Eric Levine, and today I got with me a guest I can't believe I even was able to get you, sir, Mr. Derrick Hamilton. How you doing, brother?
All right, yourself, man. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm just glad that you took the time out. Dude, you've been on Joe Rogan, so like, I was like, you know what? I just listened to this whole thing, this guy's story moved me. I'm just going to reach out. If it works, it works. If not, fuck it. I tried.
Just try, right?
But you did. You reached back. I tried to be as like, hey, dude, I'm a cop. Your story, like, I'm trying to like let you know, like right up front, like other cops need to hear your story. So one, we can avoid the mistakes that happened to you. Two, you can kind of tell us like some of the stuff you saw come down the line and all that. But before we get into that, listen, anybody listen to the podcast, Derrick's told his story a million times already. And I don't want to waste everybody else's time with him repeating this long, beautiful story, for the ending. I'm glad the ending came out the way it did. But Derrick, just give us a quick synopsis of basically what happened to you.
I was wrongfully convicted for murder. I served over 2 decades in New York prisons. In 2015, I was exonerated by the Kings County District Attorney's Office after a lengthy investigation. They found that the evidence that sent me to prison was unreliable, and they exonerated me. But I spent over 2 decades in prison for a crime I did not commit. That's a
Damn.
short.
Gotcha. So on top of that, it isn't just the fact that you were exonerated for a crime you didn't commit. There maybe was some corruption along the way on the police side.
Well, the detective that convicted me, there has been over 20 convictions, 20 exonerations, I should say, and people he got wrongfully convicted. He worked over 200 homicide cases, all of them are under investigation. And so far, 20 people has been exonerated. We're working on a few more ourselves. So he was a road cop in a big city, and just got carried away and just started locking up a lot of people on faulty evidence, unreliable evidence. He was just about closing cases. Didn't care whether he had the right person or not.
Damn. Damn. I've told you, you and I talked on the phone a little bit, and this is, I wanted to get right into to the good part of this topic. And for me, that is, what do we do right? What are we doing wrong? How do we fix this stuff? Obviously, one of the things that you're pointing out without pointing it out is, how are we evaluated as officers? How are we evaluated as detectives? What makes us look good on paper? For some places, it's numbers.
Right.
How many convictions do you get? How many
Right.
people are you locking away?
Right, right. In a big city like New York, you got to understand there's a lot of pressure to close cases, and a lot of times you get detectives that get carried away. But ultimately, sometimes you get tunnel vision. Sometimes you get bad information from informants. Sometimes you believe information that you receive, and you just go with it without actually dotting your T's and crossing your I's. And look, human nature gets us sometimes. We be so far gone, and we got so much evidence and gathered so much stuff around one suspect that we forget to look at others, or we forget to say, "Hold on a minute." In this case, we had a female named Teresa Gomez who identified 6 different people in 6 homicides in 6 months. 6 different murders she identified people in a 6 month period. So, this cop should have told Teresa, come on, Teresa. Like, who sees 6 murders in 6 months? One of the cases said she looked through a peephole and saw the murder. There was no peephole in the door. So, some things it's just too, like, it's too untrue to believe.
And
And
this
this
was an informant saying that she saw 6 murders?
She wasn't even an informant, according to the detective. According to him, she wasn't even an informant. She was just a civilian who happened to see all these murders, and he believed her for whatever reason or another. He still today say he feels she was credible. But I think that as human beings, right? Whether you're a detective or no matter what you are, you're a human being first. And I think you should evaluate things by saying, is this the type of evidence I would want to send me away to prison? You can start with that, right? If
Yeah.
this was me, would I want this person to be deemed reliable when there's inconsistencies, when there's object lying going on? So I think what we need to do is just watch the tunnel vision. Don't be too eager to arrest somebody, because you got to remember, even if you get the right guy, right, and your paperwork is wrong, right, even if you get the right guy and you lock him up and you don't do it by the book, you opening the door for him to get out, right? So if
Yeah.
the objective is to get the right guy, then you should cross your T's and dot your I's to make sure you're doing everything by the book, right? You shouldn't do suggestive identification procedures. While you may think showing a single photograph is a thing to do, there's a lot of law that says it is wrong, right? So you make sure your photo array is right. You should make sure there's no suggestive evidence whatsoever, so that you don't have to worry about some court coming along later and saying, "Hey, man, you suggested to this guy, whatever." The
So
whole
let's explain that to people that don't, because one thing that you guys don't know maybe about Derrick is he got himself out of prison. He became a jailhouse lawyer in a sense and educated himself on the law to the point where he won his own exoneration. Is that how that went, Derrick?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I mean that. So if you're hearing him and you're like, well, how the fuck's he know? Like, that's how he knows, because he took the time in these 23 years that he was in to study the law, educate himself, and basically help win his own freedom. I mean, if you're not going to do it, who else is?
Absolutely. And I worked for a lot of other guys and was involved in a lot of exonerations over the years. So, one of the best practices they talk about identifications, and one of the major issues in wrongful convictions is mistaken identification procedures. And what they have identified, experts have identified that there's many different ways to suggest to a witness that the person they identifying is the person who committed a crime. Right? There's a lot of different ways. So if a witness first says, "I can't identify the person who committed this crime," right? The witness has told you directly, "I don't know who did it." So it's almost impossible to make this person recollect or to identify somebody without some form of suggestiveness, right? So that's the first thing you got to watch out for, right? If a person says they didn't or they unable to identify a suspect, and you show them a single photograph and say, "Take a look at this guy," right? Take a good look at him. You sure it's not this guy? You sure it's not the guy you saw, right? And then you take this same guy and put him in a photo array. Now, let's say you put the same individual in a photo array with five other pictures. So now, when this person looking at the photo array, their memory, right, is gonna say, "Oh, it's this guy," because now they just seen this guy in a single photograph. They see him now in the photo array. Now they're 100% sure that this is the guy. This is the guy that did it. Right? I know it's him. How do you know it's him? I'm 100% sure. Right? That's the guy seen committed robbery. Because the way that the mind works, you subliminally suggested to this guy by showing them a single photograph and then showing them again in the photo array that this is the person that committed the crime.
And they're
However,
not lying. They're not
they,
lying.
they,
They think that is what it is.
they really
And
believe.
they're so Derek, the major reason I wanted you on here so we can educate cops, citizens, everybody all around. So one of the things that I do where I'm at, one of the in-house rules for us is one, anytime we show what we call a six pack, it's a photo lineup of six people. Your suspect may or may not be in there, but one, it's a computer generated randomness. So you have no control of the order. And two, everybody has to be similarly looking, and there can not be any distinctive. Like if your suspect has reported a scar down the right side of his face, all of your people need to have a scar down the right side of their face. So these are some of the steps we do to avoid what he's talking about. And this isn't a common practice. I mean, let me step back. This isn't a standardized practice, I should say, across the board. So this is something we need to do. We need to standardize this style of identification. And another thing that we do is like, if it's my case, I'm not allowed to show the
Right. Double
witnesses.
blind. Right.
It
Double
has to
blind.
be it has to be an unrelated detective that comes in. You just give him your stuff. He goes in, and that's it. So
It's a
I
great
want
practice you got.
I
It's a
want to
great practice.
learn.
Right. That's a great practice they got, and they should put that all over the country. In New York, they didn't have it. They trying to put it together now. They got some of it going on now, but that prevent a lot of wrongful convictions. So I commend the commissioner there, the sheriff there that's doing that because that's very very important. Another thing I would say is that we got to be careful with tunnel vision. Tunnel vision, we all have it. As human beings, we come away with perceptions all the time, right? So let's say I get a tip. Somebody called me and said, "The guy you're looking for is Derrick Hamilton," right? This is the guy that committed the crime. Automatically, my mind is saying, "I got a tip, right? This can be the guy," right? So we got to watch um, building evidence around the individual that the tip came in on. You got to be objective. You got to find out, is there evidence this guy committed a crime or not, right? A lot of times, guys' backgrounds, the guy might have been arrested for a similar crime previously, right? He may have a shady background. So we may tend to say, "You know what, I think this guy did this. This is MO. Right? This is what this guy do. Like this is what he does. Like, why would he do this one? He did
That,
four or five other ones, right?
that's how
You know how
my
that
mind
go.
works
Right,
sometimes.
right, right. That's how
Totally.
all
I'm
of
like, all right, everything's fitting.
right, right. All of our
Let
mind
me
work.
let me keep going.
Right. All of our mind work that way. And then if you get a call or some evidence later show that there might be another suspect, you may be far going in this investigation on this guy. You may have got witnesses or whatever, and you may not feel like going down another rabbit hole. Why don't I go look and see if it's this other guy when all of the patterns and evidence fit my suspect right here, right? So we closed the case based on our investigation. I think we need to be careful with that. A lot of different reasons. Even if you got the right guy, if some good defense lawyer come over later and see there was another suspect and you never turned it over or that you never investigated, right? And they go out and investigate, and the guy, even if he's lying, and if he says, "Oh no, I did commit this crime," if it's 7 years later, the statute of limitations is gone, there's nothing could happen to him. He might say anything. So now you gave a guy a get out of jail free card because you didn't do that other investigation. So I think again we should make sure we cross all our T's and dot our I's and investigate all of the evidence. Don't leave any stone unturned because you open up the door for defense counsel, or this guy may actually be innocent. This other guy may have committed a crime. Somebody may have lied when they said they did it. Our perception can be wrong. So those are things you got to be very careful about because it's about getting the right guy. And it's about making sure when you get the right guy, he stays in. And one of the major things I want to say happens when you get the wrong guy. In a lot of these cases, the right guy continues to go out and commit more crimes. So that's a public safety problem too. So it's our job to make sure we get the right guy, get him off the street, and do it in the right way.
One of the things, tell me if you've noticed this, that I have noticed in the criminal justice system is we find a guy to not be the person. Like, let's say it is a person that's wrongfully convicted, or we got him sitting in jail and he hasn't had the trial yet, and then we find out that it isn't the person that we're looking for. And then what does the prosecutor do? They figure out other charges
Yes.
for something else, or a warrant, like a lame ass warrant or something like that. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I always say we, because it's the criminal justice system, and unfortunately for police, we're the front line, and we're always going to be to blame to start. And I get that, and I don't want to throw any more shade at us than necessary, but I'll see prosecutors that are holding on to some sort of charge that they can find, even though this person's, it's like they got to make up for fucking up. They're like, oh, well, we screwed up this, but he still did this. So, and in my mind, I'm like, no, you screwed up. Let that guy, like, you're talking about a petty offense, and now you're trying to just save face. And
Well, the
what for?
prosecutor holds the power. They hold the power.
Oh yeah.
The detective in my case, Louis Scott Seller, he says that every day. He says, I brought the case to the prosecutor, and it was the prosecutor who prosecuted. Right? They had the right to say no, that I'm not going to believe this evidence. Right? I don't prosecute cases. I bring the case to the prosecutor. And he's right about that because they had an obligation to investigate. They had an obligation to make sure that the evidence he brought them was reliable. But yet and still, nobody talks about the prosecutor. They get away scot clean in this thing. But you're right. Prosecutors want to convict people. Even when they get evidence that is not the person, they don't care. They're too far gone. They want to win a case. And they will prosecute almost anything because they win. They got a good conviction rate. They know that 9 times out of 10 they can convict a jury to convict somebody on a scintilla of evidence, a little bit of evidence. They've done it over and over again. But I think one of the major things to learn in this criminal justice forum that we're in right now is that we are all in it together, right? And we remember that, right? When I say we're all in it together, I mean from the moment that somebody is arrested, right? There's a basic fundamental reason in interrogation, right? We shouldn't just go in interrogation. We're going to get a confession out of this guy, right? We shouldn't go in there with, my job is to see if this guy confessed. We should ask sensible questions, right? And if a guy says, "Hey, I want a lawyer," give him a lawyer. Don't push
Oh
it.
yeah.
Don't. See. A lot of times we can't feed to somebody a story, right? Because a lot of time I tell you in New York City what happens with cops a lot, right? Because the United States Supreme Court says they can lie. And I give you names of cases where this has happened at. In a case by the name of Marty Tankland, a 17-year-old kid in Long Island, who's been exonerated now, white guy in Long Island. His father and mother was brutally killed. The police go there and they question Marty. And they tell Marty that on his dying bed, his father said, Marty killed me. Marty did this to me. Like Marty was the one that assaulted me. And when the detectives wouldn't question Marty, they said to Marty, your father told us on his dying bed that you was the one that did this. And Marty says, if my father told you that, then it must be true. I must have blanked out. Right? My father wouldn't lie. Right? He knows his father. This is a young white 17-year-old kid. And he said, my father wouldn't lie. My father told you that? Then he go on and make a confession. and said that he may have blanked out and killed his father. He did 17 years in prison on his confession. 17 years. So, I mean, again, then we found out later that Marty didn't commit the crime, that it was his father's business partner, who actually murdered him. But you have to be careful because it's easy to influence and manipulate young kids to admit to things after being in the precinct 12 and 14 hours, tired, just want to get out. We got cases where every other detective in the precinct said the guy said he had an alibi. One detective come in, Scott Sullivan, says the guy confessed, and he gets convicted on the confession. Things like that shouldn't happen, right? It shouldn't happen because every other detective said, "Hey, this guy said he had an alibi." Two detectives said they wouldn't verify the alibi and came back. We got a case where a police officer witnessed the murder. He arrests the guy with the gun in his hand, turn him over to this detective who lets the guy convince him that his fellow officer is lying, that he didn't do it, that somebody else did it. Nelson Cruz is the name of that case in New York City. So, I think, look, we can't say that there's all bad officers. Scott Suller is one of a kind, right? When I say one of a kind, I mean that, look, 20 cases, 20 cases, 20 homicide cases, and you're looking at 150, it's unheard of. Uh, you know, but in big cities like Chicago, New York City, and stuff like that, it happens because there's so many murders. But I think the main thing to learn is that if you really believe somebody committed a crime, there's legal and lawful ways to investigate. There's legal and lawful ways to catch this guy if he did it. Good police work. You don't. There's no way to get shortcuts, right? You just got to dig in. You got to dig in. There is no shortcuts because you want to make sure you put your guy away if he did it for a very long time.
Yeah. Can you tilt your camera down just a little bit? It keeps cutting off your mouth. There
There
you
we
go.
go.
I just
Better,
want to
better,
see. There you
better,
go.
better, better. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But okay. So it's funny the differences, like the stuff I hear you talking about is stuff that, I've studied throughout my education through being a cop and pursuing, degrees and stuff like that. And this is like these people you tend to be helping. You're all in this big era is basically what I want to call it. You're like all in this era, 2017, 15 years ago, somewhere in these chunks or even longer. But the practices have been changing for the better from what I see. But like I said, it's not a standardized practice. Like what we do for six packs and stuff like that, I I'm sure there's departments that don't. And until they face the dire consequences of what happened to you or what happens to other people, a lot of times that stuff goes unchecked because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, and it's about unions too. If you get big police unions like New York City, a lot of times they fight stuff, right? They don't want the best practices coming in. They're used to doing things for so long a certain way, and it's a lot more difficult to get laws passed when you got big lobbyists and unions saying no, we don't want to pass them because again they vote as well, so they constituents as well. So I mean, I'm glad that Texas got it where you at, and I think the best practice should be universal, should be standardized, because it's the better of everybody. Um, it won't stop you from arresting somebody if they committed a crime. Like there's no real hindrance in using the best practice. The best practice is for everybody. It's to protect cops. It's to protect civilians. It's to protect the criminal justice system. To make sure that you get the guilty person, let the innocent people go free. So I mean, I'm happy that it's being instituted there, and I hope that a lot of different municipalities, and counties, and states follow your practice. I think it should be definitely, definitely everywhere because it will look when you look at and I know the prison industrial complex. There's a lot of systemic racism in it, whether people want to believe it or not. But in some places and in some neighborhoods, the police more than they do others because there's more violence in those neighborhoods than others, and it's maybe justified in some degrees. But if I'm a guy that's known in my community and a crime happens in my community, I'm automatically a suspect because of my reputation, because of the fact that I'm known to have committed these type of crimes. So A lot of times you get people that say, show my picture, show this guy photograph. Even if they put it in a six pack, the manner in which they communicate. I've seen six packs where they have officers in them, right? And the officers on each side of the suspect, and they're holding their card pointing this way, one on the other side pointing this way, right? So it's not just he's in the middle, and you got two officers, one point this, one point that way. So there's a lot of different ways to suggest, and it would seem as those instances I'm giving you is deliberate. So double blind lineups is good, where the officer is not involved. Um, Outside people come in and do them, or they do the six pack. You don't have to worry about it. It's look, it's human nature for us to want to win, us to want to get the bad guy off the street. But we got to make sure we get the right one.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we really should focus on, I mean, from what what you're talking about, what I'm talking about is the reward system. What is the reward system? Are cops, are detectives like me, like even where I'm at, like the office or the detective that writes a lot of warrants, like he's looked at as a badass detective. Like that dude's, oh man, he killed it this month. He wrote 30 warrants. Okay. I don't disagree that that's a cool gauge of showing productivity. It's better than the detective that sits over there on his ass and doesn't do shit. He wrote one warrant, and then you go look at his cases, and you're like, dude, you had enough here to write 2 or 3 more warrants. Why are you being lazy? So what's another matrix that we could have to, and I'm just talking about the police level, to show good productivity? Because I don't think going out there and stroking a bunch of tickets necessarily, that's going to cause a problem, obviously. Now we can't have ticket quotas. I think that got nixed in the 70s. So how do you quantify, how do you measure a cop's success? Because to me, I know I don't know if you have them there. We call them neighborhood patrol officers. I love the neighborhood patrol officer that gets out there, and I ask him, like, who's the man? Hey folks, Eric Levine from Two Cops, One Donut. Want something better than Ring, Arlo, Brink, or any of the other quick launch home security systems? I've been having trouble with my Ring products. They don't read license plates on moving vehicles, the link doesn't connect fast enough to my phone, and I'm tired of getting notifications only to see like a glimpse of something that set it off. I was reached by a veteran-owned business called Agent Security. The owner, the staff, all veterans or former cops. They're kind of like the Chick-fil-A of customer service when it comes to security. They have a system that does everything companies like Ring do and more. They have pivoting cameras that track day or night. They can also read license plates and catch high-definition details that will lead police more effectively to catching the offender. Their mission is providing the best home security systems to their customers. All you have to do is start the conversation to protect our most valuable assets, our families. They listen to your needs and come up with perfect customized security solutions to protect what matters to you most. You can contact them by phone at 713-962-3558 or email info@agentsecurity.com or visit their website, agentsecurity.com. That's AGENTSECURITY.com. They serve the greater Houston area, North Texas, and more. Be sure to tell them that Eric Levine from Two Cops, One Manager at this store. Oh, that's Frank. He does this. His wife works over here. I like that. I like that an officer took the time to go out. Like, that's not a quantifiable measure, but that guy knows his area and he knows all his people. That's awesome. But that cop may be looked down at certain departments because he doesn't write 2 tickets a week or a day, and he doesn't, make so many stops in a day. Like, it's hard. I don't know another way. And we're talking about prosecutors. There's this conviction rate, and I don't even know that if that's still a true measure for them, but conviction rate's got to be important. And I would rather them, if you ever watched the movie Law Abiding Citizen, you ever heard of that one?
No, I never heard of that one.
Okay, so I'll give you the quick premise of it. A husband, father, his wife and daughter are killed in front of him. The wife is raped in front of him, and he's looking at the prosecutor. He's hoping the prosecutor he knows who the guys are. He IDs them. These are the guys. And the prosecutor, he goes on a technicality. He's like, look, I know that you say this is a guy, but it's not what you know. It's what you can prove. And he's like, we don't have enough to get these guys for the capital offense. So I'm going to plea down. And this guy goes on a fucking revenge rampage. You need to watch this movie if you haven't seen it. It's great. Gerard Butler. Jamie Foxx, two of my favorite actors. But anyway, the basic premise and moral of the story was he didn't give a shit if he just wanted that prosecutor to try because it was what was right. Go after him because it's what's right. I don't care. Win, lose, you did what was right and you tried. But you wanted to plea out to keep your conviction rate high. So I don't know if that's still a measure. I've had a couple prosecutors on. They couldn't answer that question. So I would love to know.
I think the measure, look, first of all, the prosecutor works for the public, right? In New York, when we ask for a plea for certain people, one of the things the prosecutors say most of the time is we're going to speak to the victims and see if they're okay with that, right? Is they okay, right? That's what they do in New York City a lot. Is they okay with the sentence and we give it to them? If not, then they say go ask the judge, right? The judge can give it to you, but we're not going to give it to you because we have to protect the victim right as well. If the victim want to go to trial with this case, but he feel like that's not enough time, then we have to go with the victim. But I think the measure should be justice, right? I think the real measure should be whether or not you arrest someone. First of all, cops have discretion, and I'm saying that they should use it. You should make serious arrests no matter what, right? You should, because violent crimes or crimes against public safety, sometimes you got to arrest people, right? But just because you have the power to arrest doesn't mean that every arrest is good, right? You
Yeah,
have to use
I
discretion,
agree 100%.
right? You know what
Big
I tell
picture shit.
people? Right. You know what I tell them in New York City? You got a big gun. You got a big gun problem, right? So I says, what's the problem? If I know I stopped you illegally and I took a gun off of you, I got a gun off the street, right? What if it's to me if I say, get the fuck out of here, excuse my vernacular, take the gun to the precinct and say, look, I stopped this guy illegally, but here's the gun I got off the street, right? I know I stopped him illegally. I know he had a gun. I know they have probable cause. I know I pulled him over because I know this guy, right? He didn't do anything wrong, but I know him and I know he had a gun in that damn car because I'm, a neighborhood guy. I know what this guy does, right? But you don't need to lie in your warrant because this guy, believe me, you're going to catch him again legally with a gun. Because if he's that stupid and this is what he does, you're going to be able to get him. But, sometimes we just get overzealous as human beings and we'll lie. And we'll say, hey, well, it was in plain view. Or, you make up a story and sometimes justifiably to you is right because you figure this guy's an asshole, right? But what happens is you continue that pattern, right? The pattern continues. Because if you get away with it once, you say to yourself, well, damn, there's another guy that's an asshole. Because you're going to keep running into assholes, right? Now, this is your pattern. Good lawyers see that pattern and they say, hold up, you stopped 5 guys in the same way, right? You stopped 7 guys in the same way. So I think what we need to do is use discretion, right? You stop that guy and you know that you stopped him illegally and you got that gun up the street. I think you did a great job, right? But I think that lawfully, you got to be able to say to yourself, if your department permits it, is exactly what I just said. Look, I stopped this guy. I know he had a gun. I know I stopped him wrong, right? We can send him to the prosecutor, let them decide if they want to decline to prosecute, or we can let it go ahead. But you let your sergeant know, you let your superior know exactly what happened. And let them
I got a slight problem with that.
Okay,
I get what you're saying, but my old school philosophy is, you alluded to it a second ago, is, Tweedledum out there, he fucks up, we're gonna get him.
right,
Today's not the day.
right,
That's the way I look at it. Today's
Right.
not the day.
right.
I'm not going to illegally stop him, take the gun, and then wash my hands with it. But I will say, you know what? Today's not the day. We can't find anything on him today. Don't
Right.
manufacture shit.
Don't manufacture.
Don't lie. Especially in today with body cameras and everything. That's one of my favorite tools. Keeps everybody honest. It's a great checks and balances. I think in the big picture of things, it shows cops are primarily doing the right thing, and follow, going against the grain that the media likes to push. But I love also acknowledging the fact that there are fucked up cops. We have had them. And I will get flack just for having this episode. I'm telling you right now, just for having you on. I got flack for having Aaron Dyson on. And shout out Aaron. I told him I was going to mention him with you on here. I was like, dude, he's like, he was on Joe Rogan. I was like, yeah, he was on Rogan, dude. I was like, I listened to the episode. I was like, I'm in the truck crying. I'm a baby, by the way. I'm an emotional dude. So hearing your story, I get choked up. And then so I tell him, I'm like, yeah, dude. And he's like, oh my God, that's amazing. I was like, so I was like, yeah. I was like, he's in the business of exactly what happened to you, man. So I was like, when I'm done, I'll get him your information. So so he sees this. He'll see this episode, and he's gonna know that I told you personally, so he can't say, "Oh, you never said anything, man." So I got you, Aaron. Anyway, it's that checks and balances and the ability, like even with you got on here and you didn't just sit there and claim, that all these cops are foul, all these prosecutors are foul. You said, hey, there's people that need to be arrested. There's a ton of good cops out there. Most of them are doing the job. It's just there's these outliers. And in a place like New York, I think they're at 40,000 cops. There's a couple grains of sand are going to fall through for sure. So I'm with you on that. I am not with you on using discretion that way, because a rights violation is a rights violation. I'm not trying to break anybody's civil rights to get a gun off the street. I hear you. I know. I'm with
you a 1,000,000%. I'm not advocating breaking them, but they're being done. Right. The reality is, in New York City at an alarmingly high rate, right, it's being done. Right. And I'm saying is that I don't know how you stop it. Right. I'll give you a prime example. The federal court ruled a couple of years ago that the cops in New York City was using stop and frisk illegally. They banned a unit that was doing it. Right? We get a black mayor that everybody loves, Eric Adams. He comes in, he put the unit back.
He was a former cop, wasn't he?
Former cop, chief. He comes back, he puts this unit right back in. Same thing is happening today. So look, I get it. I understand there's a gun problem. I know that it's going to be, how do you get cops, right, to get these guns off the street in New York City, which is a very big city? If there isn't some stops that may not be by the book, you're going to have them, right? And unfortunately, this big city, you're going to have them, right? It's something that we live with. But, what I'm saying is that discretion can be used in a way where, if I know that I violated somebody's rights, I shouldn't send them to jail, right? I shouldn't in turn lock them up, throw them in jail, knowing that my conscience shouldn't allow me. If your objective is to get the gun and you got to get it, but please, use your discretion and keeping guys, because it doesn't help. It
I
doesn't
see
help.
what you're saying now. I misunderstood what you meant.
Right.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Right? You can't stop them from stopping people. It's gonna happen. They got a big thing now with cabs. Now they're stopping Ubers and saying the safety check. It's the reason when they get stopped now. And it's just, the search guys. It's just to see if guys got weapons. And again, it violates civil rights. But to the powers that be in New York City, they think it's justified. Right? It's unwritten rules, it's unwritten laws. When, 11-year-old kids or 1-year-old kids getting shot by innocent bullets, young 15 to 16-year-old kids running around shooting rampantly. Cops see young kids riding around in the car, they're a little aggressive. Not saying it's right or wrong, but look, Chicago, same way. New York City, the same way. It's really, really violent, and something has to be done.
Yeah, we just had a 5-year-old and a 17-year-old killed in a drive-by.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. It actually, where I'm at, this was a bad weekend. We're not on New York or Chicago's level by any means, but it was a violent weekend for us, and we are fortunate enough that we are not so big that things can get lost in the sauce the way they can in Chicago and New York. We can address these issues, and we can go after them intelligently, technology led, big stuff like that. And that's one of the things that, if you ever come back down here, I would love to show you our technology, our real-time crime center, and show you these new ways that were going after old school crimes. I mean, the same stuff, violent corners where dope's being dealt and people are carrying, there's a lot of money involved and stuff like that. We've changed, the game has evolved for cops
Yes.
that to a level that you probably haven't seen yet.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, listen, I had a cop tell me, recently, he said, look, man, I know you're about wrongful conviction, getting these guys out, but my last 15 homicides is on video. You know what I mean? Like these guys, there's no hope for. So I mean, there's definitely technology. I mean, a lot of it, and I think it should be utilized. It should be. Drones, everything should be utilized. You get information.
Yeah, I love it. And I tell people, like, my job as a cop, when I see us starting to use this technology, is to make sure that we don't cross the line. We're
Right.
not looking into your backyard without a warrant. We're not big brothering things. Cameras are great in public places. That's what I say. Cameras are a public place facility. Like, that's perfect. But if you're going to start looking into someone's house, into somebody's car, in somebody's backyard, take the extra day, write the warrant, get the judge to approve it. If he doesn't think you have it yet, figure out what you need. That's one of the beauties of being a cop. We're talking a little bit about the gray area. You said, the guy's got a gun. You ain't got nothing on him, but you stop him anyway. You get that gun off of him. Hey, kick rocks. We know we'll get you again, but I got your gun.
Right. We
Fuck
know
off.
we're not gonna
Yeah.
stop.
So good police work is generally, there's this gray area that we have to, it's constantly, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. If it's not necessarily against the rule yet, we're going to try to use that and exploit that loophole that we have until somebody says, no, that's not right. Or they say, you know what? Yeah, this is a good tool. Good job. You guys came up with a unique method of fighting crime, and we agree with it. So it just depends. That's the beauty of laws. It's based on public opinion. So what was good in the 70s and 80s is not good now. It's, kind of
Right.
like stop and frisk. It ebbs and flows. It just depends on the public perception. So
You have to evolve. Everything evolves. Everything evolves. And again, technology gives you a better chance to do things different. Look, fingerprints. Look at that. I mean, we would think
oh
that
yeah, I heard you talk about Prince
we
on
would think
Rogan,
that
man.
fingerprints was 100% reliable at one time. Who wouldn't say, "Oh, this guy prints here, he did it. He had to do it." There's error rate now in fingerprints, so you got to consider that. Just because you got a guy's fingerprints or it look like they may be his, you got to consider the error rate now, right? You got to say, okay, is this really this guy's? If it's 40%, 30%, let's get something else. Let's see if we can find something else. It makes you work a little harder, but a little extra work will definitely prove that there's being justice done, right? That we got the right guy. Not only got his fingerprints, but we found some DNA over here, or his phone put him in the area at the time that the crime happened, or whatever it may be. Go a little further, step further, and see if you can get something else to corroborate fingerprints, because we know that it's not as reliable as it once was. So we just got to do a little extra work on all of our parts. And again, perception. I'm telling you, perception, tunnel vision is the biggest problem for us as human beings. Look, me, I think that I'm a guy that's as fair as ever, right? I found myself watching the news, and crime happened, and I said, "Oh man, them cops got to get these motherfuckers, man. Get those guys in the street. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Get them
yeah.
off the street." And then they arrest these guys, and you say, "Good, they got them. These guys was dirty. They shouldn't have did it." But then you find out that it wasn't as the victim said it was. Right? It's a different story. The cops was lied to. The media was lied to. Everybody was lied to in this instance. You know what I mean? So, I mean, what do you say in situations like that? Everybody had tunnel vision. So it happens. And this is why, as police officers, you are entrusted, you are entrusted with a lot, right? Because you're the greatest guy in the world. But as soon as you make a mistake, you know what I mean? As soon as you do something wrong, they crucify you. Now it's the whole department. I
Yeah,
mean,
not just you,
yeah,
all of you.
you know what I mean? So you gotta be careful, man, because it's not just you, the impropriety, the appearance of impropriety. You don't have to be impropriety. Just the appearance that you're doing something wrong goes on the whole department. And prosecutors the same way, right? Because the prosecutors is the arm of law enforcement. When they do something wrong, you guys get that, right? You guys get that too. You know what
Because
I
no
mean?
one sees them.
Nobody
They
sees them.
Nobody sees them. Nobody follows through. Nobody looks and sees what the results were and what the findings are on a case.
Right.
All they hear is this guy got loose or this guy got convicted, and then we find out that the cop fucked up somewhere, or you don't. The prosecutors, they I don't see any end. You never hear of anything at the end with the prosecutor, with the judge, with um the defense attorneys. I never hear anything about them. I guess the court system in itself is an enigma. You never hear anything about the court system. Very rarely. The only time that I can recall hearing anything about courts was private jails being in cohort with judges,
Right.
and I think that was in Pennsylvania or something like that.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
that shit, like, and don't get me started with private jails. Prisons. I'm totally against that.
Right.
That's just opening the door for corruption.
It is money, 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 money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's even if it's not, even if they're being 100%, upfront and everything's legit, it's just too tempting. It's too easy to switch over. It's hard to catch, you know. And one of our most unprotected areas is prisons. I mean, it's more bars, more walls, higher, that's kind of the premise. And I am of the opinion of, yes, bad people do bad things, they deserve punishment, all that stuff. However, at the same time, I'm also the person who's like, if they got a chance of getting out, how do I prevent them from going back? I
Right.
don't want recidivism. I don't want them to go back. I want them to come back and kick ass. And one of my biggest pet peeves is the term felon. Motherfucker just did 15 years for a crime. He paid for it, and he gets out, and he's got the tag felon. All this training and stuff that we allowed him to get, that we paid for while he was rehabilitating, he can't use it. He can't even
Right.
be a goddamn barber when they get out.
Right. 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 It
Like,
makes no sense.
that makes no sense. That drives me nuts. Like, that's one of the first things, if you give me presidential powers today, is that tag. Like, I want them to be successful. Let's get them out of jail. Yes, they fucked up. And a lot of, like, Aaron. I love Aaron's story because Aaron's one of the first guys to tell you, yeah, I screwed up. I was 16. I was a dumb kid. I
Right.
did something stupid. But what they convicted me for, I didn't do, and I wasn't guilty of. And that's bullshit. And the guy that killed his cousin that he retaliated on got 12 years.
Wow.
Aaron was in jail for 26,
Wow.
and he didn't kill anybody. And then the guy that killed his cousin was advocating for him to get out of jail. Crazy, right? So, in that, I'm like, that really opened my eyes. Like, this is a blind spot for cops. Maybe this can be something else you advocate for. We don't really see much after we put our case into court. Like, like me, I'm pretty good at writing reports. I rarely have to go to court. I don't go to court that often because my reports are rock solid. And just like you say, I don't put all my eggs in one basket. I don't rely just on prints. And maybe that's the best practices I was given through the people that trained me. In the stuff that you're talking about, like, man, I want Derrick, you got to come down and see what I'm seeing here. Maybe it'll help you, because people are going to listen to your message, man. Like, especially now that you've been on Rogan. Well, especially now that you've been Two Cops One Donut, you're going to blow up, son. Like, tens of people are going to come check you out. But no, man, I now that you're out and that you are such a voice for, like, you're not with the Innocence Project, are you?
I'm work with them on legislation. With
Okay.
Jack and Rebecca Brown and all those people. We definitely work with them all the time on changing legislation around the country. We go out and we speak to legislators about changing identification procedures, like we talked about, changing confessions, changing the way that police are monitored. We do the same thing about prosecutors, trying to hold some of them accountable. We just want to make sure that the best practices that you know and I know is implemented in every state. So we go around the country and doing some of that stuff. But I work with them a lot in New York. We've changed a lot of laws there. And shout out to Innocence Project, Rebecca Brown. But Me and Josh Dubin is working on something now. Should be announced in another month. A very big project that's going to be something like the Innocence Project. We intend to get a lot of people out of prison don't belong there. Uh,
Well, let me just tell you, this episode won't air for at least another 7 weeks
got you.
because I'm that far ahead. So if you want to announce it now, it won't get out until then.
Well,
Pinky swear.
I'll tell you, you might be able to edit it. I'm under, obligation not to say it now because they haven't launched it yet.
Okay.
Uh, but I can say that it's going to be with a major law school. It's going to be very, very big. And it's going to help a lot of people. And we're going to not only just be working on wrongfully convicted cases, but we're also going to be educating judges. We're going to be educating lawyers and prosecutors on junk science, right? We're going to be educating
Yeah.
them
Like
uh,
blood splatter and shit like that.
the
Yeah.
right way to get the evidence in.
Yeah.
So,
So this is something to consider, okay? I would love for you, like, we're talking about best practices. It would be great if you had it in your arsenal. Hey, do like X department does. Like, this is a standard practice that we agree with. This is good. Do what this department's doing here when it comes to interrogation, and this department for six packs and stuff like that. Man, if you had just a pamphlet, hey, look, these are the best practices we've seen so far.
well,
Because,
we
like, for me, I'm always trying to improve. If you've seen something at Chicago PD that I never heard of, I'd be like, damn, like, this is what I need to know because this guy is out here trying to get people out of jail that I may be trying to put in. And, like, maybe he's saying something. I don't want to screw up. If I can do it better, let me do it better. Like I said, I'm a rock solid. Like, when I put a case together, good luck. Like, there ain't much to fight.
commend you for that.
So, but that's the standard practice where I'm at, and I had really good mentors when it comes to detective work. So
We often say a guy that I work with too by the name of Justin Bonus. We often say that in some southern states, people would be surprised at how more transparent and fair they are, right, than New York. In New York, I'll give you an example. When you get in the precinct, I bet in your state, when a suspect is arrested, the moment he comes in the precinct, he's on video. And to the moment he leaves, he's on video. In New York City, it's not like that, right? A guy will be in police custody for a very long time. And the only time he's on video is when he's confessing or is when he's making a statement. Everything up to the video, you don't know what happened, right? You don't
really,
know what happened. You don't know. So, these are things that the union fight because they don't want it. They don't want the best practices. And they so used to doing things the way that they've been doing it. They look at it as if, well, why would I want to be on video? I don't want video watching me all day in the precinct, right? But if you're doing nothing wrong, what are you worrying about, right? And it's good for society to know that you're above reproach, that you're doing everything with integrity, right? And you should do everything with integrity. So those look, different states, different police departments do things different. Um, I believe that the best practice should be that you on video from the moment that you have stopped camcorder outside in the precinct, you on video, and a lot of different reasons. Because if I confess and I say the cop beat me up, slapped me, he made me confess, you got a video that should have never happened. It protects you as a police officer. It protects you. This guy's a liar. Look at the video. He came in, there was nothing wrong. When we left, there was nothing wrong with him. For the moment he came in, he was on video. So I don't see why you would fight that. I think that these are things that transparency need to be, right? Everybody need to see what the truth is. And again, it helps because now if this guy came in and started confessing, just start running his mouth, you Mirandize him and said, man, you got the right to remain silent. He wanted to talk, he can no longer fight that. There's no reason for a court giving him a Huntley hearing. Because you got the video. Take a look at the video. You know what I mean? And it saved taxpayers money, right? It saves a lot of back and forth, right? It saves a lot of allegations against police officers that may not be true. Because this guy said you beat him up and you didn't do it, right? It has to bother you somehow, right? It has to put a stain on your record if he writes it up and make the complaint. Now you're spending time defending against it when it could have been resolved by strictly having a video. And I think every state should have it. I don't see one reason. It doesn't cost that much. You know, and I know. You can put video precinct any day. The
Or
budget.
bare minimum, if like for us, because there are some places that we just don't have cameras inside the building. That doesn't matter. If a suspect comes in, somebody with a body camera has to stay with him. There should be no lapse in time until that person is in a place where he could be recorded. So that's one of the cheap ways we get around, outfitting an old ass building with camera systems. Is we just if you're bringing somebody in, well, guess what? You need to be recording on your personal body camera. Somebody stays with them, and then as soon as you get them into a interview room, the interview room's all mic'd up and recording,
Yeah,
and then you put him in there. But until then, if he has to sit down in a chair, well, guess who's sitting next to him?
that's good.
The officer with a body cam,
Yeah, that's
and
great.
that's just the way it is. So I'm with you on that, brother. Okay, I kind of want to switch gears because you've got a view on a side of the house that I have zero experience with. Okay, and that's the prison side. Um, Aaron, when he was on, talked about some disturbing stuff with corrections officers and possible corruption and stuff like that. Now, you're the second person that I've had on that not only one you were found innocent. Okay, you didn't commit murder. You were in prison that long. So you going into that house is a totally different type of perspective versus a guy that know he killed somebody and now he's inside. And like that's different. That's just different. So regardless if you had committed any, crimes before that, I don't give a shit. I don't care because I'm only talking about the reason you were put in prison in the first place. You didn't do it. So, in that effect, like, what was it like? What year did you go in?
I won it in 1991.
Okay.
The last time I won in 1991. And look, Rikers Island it is the worst of the worst. It's the it's a well at that time I think it was 38,000 inmates or something like that.
Phew.
Um,
Holy shit.
of different buildings, and it's just it's just overcrowded, very violent, very very violent place. When you talk about violence, you talk about violence on the behalf of staff and the detainees as well. And it's the worst imaginable 24 hours a day for any human being because you are degraded, you are treated less than a human being, you are forced to be in a toxic atmosphere 24 hours a day. And you can die in there. I mean, people have died in there. It's violent. There's a lot of knives and weapons and drugs and abuse. And it's look today. It's all over the news today about how the prison guards don't want to work there anymore, and they're being mandated. So now they says the detainees are running the houses. They supervising themselves because correction officers are banging in and not coming to work. Are they understaffed? That's how abusive it is, and it has got worse and worse and worse because you just mismanage. Like it's a big mismanagement from the top down, right? And and again, you got detainees. These guys are not convicted of anything; they're just accused of crimes, and you have to give them certain minimum standards. But if you treat people like animals, they tend to start acting like animals. And I say that from the way that it's dirty. It's not clean. It's
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Impact Tactical. Impact is a tactical outfitter for the men and women of our military, police, fire departments, and other public safety around the country. Impact's core beliefs is that fearless men and women protect our freedom and safety should have access to the best tactical performance apparel, equipment, and tools on the market. And they shouldn't have to go broke to get it. I've used Impact for about 11 years, and I can attest that they do live up to their core values. So you get a personal recommendation from me. You can find them at impacttactical.com. That's MPAK tactical.com. And be sure to tell them that Two Cops, One Donut sent you.
unsanitized. And from the moment a guy goes in, I mean, he's just treated despicable. I think if people was to see, and I think you get some of it now. I think about 20 people died in the last few years, and I think you get a lot of outcry on closed down Rikers Island now because they figure that they can't fix it. So they're saying that it's going so rampant that it's impossible to fix. So we need to close it down, start somewhere else. So for me, the Rikers Island experience was terrible. I was a bigger guy than average, but I spent most of my waking hours in the law library. So I would get out of the housing area where all the nonsense goes on most of the times, and I would go to the law library and spend a lot of hours there. When I get back and shower, and the little time I spend on the gallery would be minor. And then most people would be coming asking questions because they too was fighting cases. They too was trying to learn something to figure out what to tell a lawyer when they go back to court or whatever the circumstances were. So, I think for me, having a purpose, right? Knowing that I wanted to get out of here. Like I didn't want to be the cool guy in the block hanging out just to say I'm cool. I wanted to fight this case and get the hell out of here. So it protected me a lot. It kept me away from a lot of the nonsense. But you see it all. You see guys getting stabbed over telephones. You see guys getting robbed and commissary took. You see correction officers that want to be down. That might come in and want to fight a guy just to get a rep, right? So it goes both ways. You see prisoners who facing life that might want to start a correction officer and say, "Yo, you better bring me this shit in tomorrow, or I'm gonna kill you." If you got 80 inmates to one correction officer, and this guy is steady to this one gallery, he has no control. Make no mistake about it. And it should never be that way, but it is, right? You may have 160 inmates or detainees, I should say, to two correction officers or three correction officers, one on the bridge, one on each side of the gallery. How can he really supervise? How can he really stop something from happening, right? And the reality is, in his mind, he's saying, all I want to do is these 8 hours or 12, whatever I got to do and get the hell home to my family. Because any given moment, one of these guys could decide, I'm not making it home, and I'm not making it home. So, it's a real, violent atmosphere. It's intimidating uh, for both young officers and young inmates or inmates and officers alike. And, I always say that it's a thin line because human beings are human beings, right? Whether I'm a correctional officer or a detainee, if I'm in a prison setting, the most fundamental thing to me is safety, right? Don't get hurt, right? So if a guy's attacking me, I'm trying to defend myself. If I'm a correction officer, I'm not worrying about what they taught me in the academy, right? I'm trying to bust this guy's ass, right? So I can get going to my family, right? But then again, you're being penalized for that, right? You're being penalized for that. So now you get other officers that say, yo, I'm not coming to work. If this guy punched me in my face and he want to beat me up, and I got to raise my hand. If he raises his hand, I can't hit him back, right? I might get punched in my face every day with the way these guys operate, right? So, there's systems, man, that need to be changed. And when I say change, it's both ways, right? It's just not one way, right? There should be, and I give you another one when I say unsanitary, right? They rely on the prisoners to clean up, right? You rely on the prisoners to clean up the showers, the facilities, and everything, but you pay them a minuscule amount of money, right? They don't get minimum wage, right? They get nowhere near minimum wage. But you expect them to really, you got something called house gang in New York City. The guys might get $7 a week, and you want them to scrub the whole. It's not going to happen, right? These guys are going to give you a bullshit job, right? Keep it moving, right? And then what happens? Mold, black mold starts developing in the shower area. And, it really, to me, it undermines giving people what they call rehabilitation, right? Because if you take this same trip upstate New York, right, facilities ran by the state, the guy that comes out to clean up is supervised, right? And they're going to make sure he does a good job, right? They're going to make sure that he learns how to be a good porter so he can take this with him to janitorial services to the outside, right? So, if you're going to give guys tasks to do, I think first you should pay them. Second, you should train them. Third, you should make sure that they're doing it correctly. So when they leave, at least they can have this skill to go home with, right? And it takes away from recidivism. But in Rikers Island, you don't have it. And when you go upstate, it's a different environment in New York. because it's more organized, right? And there's programs, right? There's mandatory stuff that you have to do, right, in order to better yourself, right? You just can't sit down all day and play cards, right? You can't just, you got to do something productive. And I think that changes the way people mind work, right? Social stimuli helps individuals. If you don't got social stimuli, you got nothing, right? So, up there, at least you get some social stimuli. You get group settings, you get out and you do things that's productive, and it'll help you be able to be, brought back to society with skills, with something that you can fall back on. But prisons that don't give you that, prisons that just house you, warehouse you, and don't give you this social stimuli is doing a disservice to you. It's destroying you, right? It's making you angry. And then when you get out, they expect you to be, they expect you to be sane. Like a lot of times in prison, mental health is never addressed, right? For a lot of different reasons. The number one reason is that there's too many prisoners in most facilities. The mental health staff can't add up, right? The reality is there's too many prisoners,
That's
right? You
part of
need,
the reason a lot of people go in anyway.
right,
Mental health issues.
health issues. So when you go in, you don't get addressed. And in New York City, you got guys getting out, they're homeless. So where are they going? In the subway stations. So you got a lot of crimes now in the subway stations. And they saying, why is the subway station so violent? These guys are coming straight out of prison with mental health areas, and they're homeless. And they go into the subway because they got nowhere to go. So now when you see stabbings, shootings, guys throwing feces on people they've never heard of before, right? This is prison stuff. They bring it to society now. So I think as a whole, we have to make sure that the prisons operate in a manner in which we know that these guys are getting out one day. The majority of them are getting out one day, right? And we want to make sure that when they're in there, that one, they have incentives to get out, right? And what I say is this: if you know a guy's getting 20 years and he on his first year, he got nothing to look forward to, right? You're not promising them good time. You're not saying, hey man, for every month you stay out, we give you 3 days. Every month you stay out, we give you 5 days. Stay out of trouble, I mean. Every month you stay out of trouble, we give you a few days, right? Years ago, they used to be incentivized to keep guys out of trouble. With the crime bill that Biden and Clinton in the past, they took away good time. They made everything 85%. So what did that do? It made guys figure like, what the hell I gotta be good for, right? So it creates more violent environment for correction officers and prisoners alike. And it creates situations in New York City where people really just don't want to be correction officers. They really don't want to be one down there. So, yeah, I mean, when you talk about federal, as a whole different can of worms. Each state, as you know, got different facilities and do things different. So it's not like it's a one state fix all. But New York is terrible. My experience
Okay.
is terrible.
So I'm exploring your solutions. Okay, so the idea of paying the inmates, incentivizing them, and training them in more than just having some. I guarantee probably most of them are all buds anyway, so they probably bullshit the whole time while they're trying to sanitize your washrooms and whatnot. But
And you
pay
look
them.
at look, guys is doing industry work. In prison, industry work may be making lockers, making chairs, making core crap or the uniforms that they wear, right? It may be making license plates, right? Because we know that in every state, license plates are made in prison, right? DMV is one of the corporations, but you got guys that do this for 20, 25 years. When they get out, they don't get a job in DMV. If they apply, they told they can't work there, right? So my thing is that you have to treat people like human beings, right? You have to give them something, right? And if you put away some of the money that they earn, so that they can't use it all while they're in there. So when they get out, they have something to look forward to be able to, help take care of their families or get an apartment or whatever it may be. But you have to treat them like human beings, right? You can't treat them like slaves and then expect them to, get out and have equal footing. Because when they get out, they're discriminated against most of the time, right? Because they can't get jobs that they want.
They got that tag.
They got
Felon.
they got that tag.
They got that tag.
They
And
got
this is what drives me fucking insane is like, what is your goal? What is your goal when you send them to jail? Is it just punishment? If it's just punishment, okay.
Right.
I can't argue that, but that's not how our system's set up. Our system's set up for justice. It's set up for rehabilitation and punitive, I guess. Those are like three pillars. Like there's three different things. Yes, there has to be some sort of punitive thing. There has to be rehabilitation and justice. I mean, I get all of that. So if that's the big thing, we got to start setting these people up for success when they get out. Because if you don't, and I understand the mindset of, you know, that guy, you know, he robbed 3 stores, he beat the shit out of, you know, 4 different people and left some guy, you know, crippled. Okay. Tell me what his time is. And during that time, let him develop a skill when he gets out, because once he gets out, he's done the time you said he needed to do. You can't keep punishing him for life. Because if that's the case, give his ass life and leave him in there.
Right. Right. And let's figure out what caused him to do that. Right?
Yeah.
Let's figure out, like, you know, what happened.
Yeah.
Like, what happened? Because was it drugs?
Generations of families without fathers. I mean, there's just so many different. Oh my God. We could do a whole nother episode on that, sir.
So what happened? What is the cause that created that? You know, one of the things I say in the city a lot is that, look, you don't get anger management programs until you go to jail. Most of the guys in my neighborhood never had one until
That's
they
too
was in
late.
prison. Right. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, these things should be, you know, in a neighborhood where the violence is crazy, it should be in junior high schools and high schools, because young kids don't know how to deal with their anger. I didn't know about short-term, long-term consequences until I was in prison. Right? I didn't know about reducers and how to walk away, right? Because it's the first thing you say when you're a young guy. You know, when somebody's trying you, what does this guy think, I'm soft? I think I'm a punk or something. You start telling yourself this negative self-talk, right, to make you react a certain way, right? So when you learn that, nah, the guy might not think any of that. He might just be an idiot, or he might just have a bad day, right? And you say to yourself, no, I'm gonna walk away from this guy, right? Because I know that if I do this, there's going to be a consequence, right? There's going to be a short-term consequence, and it might be a long-term one, right? So now you're thinking before you react, right? You're thinking. When you're young, it's just react, 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 because you're not taught the thinking part before you react. Or the fact that, Joe, if you do this, right, you're going to go to jail for 5 years. You're going to lose your mother. You're not going to be around your sibling. Like, is it really worth it? Right? Because you think this guy think you soft. He didn't even say you soft. This is all in your own mind that you tell yourself that. You don't know what the triggers are, right? You don't know what triggered you to respond a certain way until you understand what a trigger are. When you're that young, you never even know what a trigger is, period. So I think that we need to invest more in educating youth, especially in areas where violence and gangs is at a high level. Because to me, a lot of people get in gangs because they want to deal with violence, right? They want to say, you know what, these guys are tougher than me or better than me. I'm going to deal with them. I can't beat them, I join them, right? Because they don't have the tools to be taught how to avoid them, right? Or how to not be a part of them by being proactive, right? Because we teach these guys that, look, it ain't about anger, it's not about violence, right? You can actually prevent violence by a lot of different ways, right? But if if you force to defend yourself, that's one thing. But you just don't, because a guy bump you, or God curse you out, or God talk shit to you, right? Think it's right to go pick up a weapon or take it to the streams. And one of the things the Supreme Court has taught us since Roper versus Simmons was that there's a part of adolescent brains that don't develop until they're 25.
Yeah, the brain's developing until you're 25 years old.
And it says that part of the brain is the part that teaches you consequences, right? You don't really get it until you're 25. So we know that a lot of adolescents do dumb shit. We know that. Like, it's just known. So why don't we, me too, I'm with you on that. So why don't we, knowing that, teach them more? Let them understand that, look, man, like, this is what statistics show. This is what
Mm-hmm.
science proves. So let me help you understand what your brain hasn't developed yet. Right? Let me help you try to get it to save you from sitting in that prison cell, or to save you from going out there and committing a dumb crime, to save you from thinking it's cool to be amongst what you consider to be peers, right? That's doing dumb stuff. Right? Let me help you. Let me facilitate you through this to give you a better life. And I think if we start doing that, we work towards prevention. We work towards prevention, right? As opposed to just building the prison industrial complex. Because if our goal is public safety, right? Then why not catch kids when they're young, right?
Yeah.
And give
Get
them,
it at the roots.
yeah, and give them the
Yeah.
tools they need so that they don't go towards a life of crime, right?
Yeah.
Let's try to
I'm
help.
with you, brother.
You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
we be about that, then we should be working towards that as a society,
Yeah.
right? Society, and I think it's gonna happen eventually. But you know how a bureaucracy does; it takes time.
Yeah, we've where I'm at personally, we've got a program. We've got several programs. I'm actually very proud of, but one is PAL, which is a boxing thing. Um, and we don't just close it off to only like the most severe troubled use. We kind of allow anybody, which is great, but we try to focus the officers. We try to get them to recommend, like, hey, this is we need to get him in, otherwise he's too far gone. We got a program with the NFL, and I cannot remember the name of it off the top of my head. I was actually a part of this one where a bunch of cops, we come in dressed plain, like just like I would. I'm a Star Wars nerd, if you can't tell. So I had all my Star Wars stuff on, just being a dork, like I am anyway. And we go there and we sit with these high school kids, some freshmen, some seniors are just kind of sprinkled in there. And the first day is just meeting them, talking to them. They have no idea we're cops, but they do know that this has something to do with the NFL, and so they're into it and they're enjoying it. They're guards down, and we find ways to connect. Like like me, I grew up in Flint, Michigan, so grew up. My mom and dad didn't marry. I kind of grew up in that type of neighborhood. Flint is rough. I don't know if you heard of
Yeah,
Flint at all, but Flint, a little rough area in Michigan. Don't drink the water, guys. So, I had a rough go a little bit, but I made it. And so we connected, and then the next day we come in, same thing. First half of the day, we're playing games and getting to know each other. And, I will roast you. Like, that's my thing. I roast everybody. Like, you better be quick, because when I was a little kid, so I was like Kevin Hart. I had to know how to use my mouth and run. Those are the only two things I had. So we get going, and then it's time for the big reveal. These NFL players come in and they talk, and they're like, telling them how to behave and follow sports and follow the right path, stay out away from some of this bullshit that you're seeing in the streets. And then they're like, we got some guys for you to talk to about it. And then we all come in that they've been working with the last 2 days. And Dr. Harper, shout out to you. We all come in and we're in uniform, full uniform. And you just see their jaws drop. Like, I've been hanging out and thinking that this cop was cool. And then I'm sitting there, and I as soon as I walk up, I'm like, hey, I'm Officer Levine. I work here. I've done this. I've done that. And I look at my group of boys that I was hanging with, and I'm like, and I was like, and still your mama, like, I was like, still ragging on them. So they're like, oh my God, like, so it kind of opens their eyes to see, cops are people, and I can relate. Like, they understood. Like, I opened up to them. I was honest, told them the whole truth about my upbringing, and they, like, it helped win them over with police. And because there is a distrust in these, social, economic, deprived places, that the police, like you said, the police presence is heavier. Why is it heavier? Well, because that's where the crimes are. We follow where the crime goes. There's a rich white neighborhood. There's not a lot of crime going on, so you're not going to see as many cops. So it's just, and you try to, now you've got common ground. and you can. So it's a really good program. So that's kind of the point I was getting to. Is these programs out there, other officers, if you're listening to this, like 90% of my audience is first responders. So I want them to hear. If you've never heard of PAL and you've never looked into the NFL community program, I think it's called SCORE. I can't remember, but look into those types of things. And then obviously Derrick, what you got going on, man? I mean, with Innocence Project, I'm excited for this big release thing that you got going on. I kind of want it. When you do that, will you at least let me know and I can put something out about it?
Yeah, I will. I definitely will. And we've been operating, family and friends of the wrongly convicted.
Oh yeah, let me show that off. I'm glad you brought that up.
Profit organization that I've been working with for the last 20 years. We've been doing very good work. 3 exonerations in the last year. We have over 100 cases in there that we're working on.
Really?
So, I mean, we work. This is the case I was telling you about, Nelson Cruz, where the cop witnessed the murder and arrested the right guy. And somehow Nelson Cruz became the wrong guy locked up. Vincent Simmons is a guy who lives actually in Texas now. We got him out Valentine's Day. He did 44 years in Louisiana. We got him exonerated, and he lives in Houston now.
Are you getting these guys paid too? Not just getting them out, but getting them paid?
We got a civil rights suit pending in Louisiana for Vincent Simmons. We definitely sue the hell out of the states that wrongfully convicted him.
Why does it take a lawsuit? I would think that there would be an automatic, oh shit, he was just exonerated. We fucked up. At least here's this. And then if a lawsuit needs to be done after because it's not enough, okay, I get that. But
the hardest part is that you got to go to another trial. Like these guys was tried and convicted. And later on when they was found innocent, you got to take these guys to another trial where a different set of city, county, or state officials is saying that they're guilty again, right? So the traumatic effect of that, right, is just insane. I agree with you. There should be immediate compensation once the guys are exonerated. They should really just give them something so they can get their lives back together. So we got a new website coming up soon. But,
we're not. Yeah, your website. Yeah, okay. I'm a pretty honest guy. It could use a facelift.
Oh, we got a facelift coming, man.
It's a little old school.
It's old school. We got a real good one coming up.
That's good. Yeah, because we talked about this right at the beginning. Like part of the problem with the system is when we fuck up, we still got that. We're dragging our feet. Like exonerated. That is a different story, guys. If you're not like educate yourself on the difference between a technicality and exoneration. There is a big difference. Okay, we're talking about somebody that was found innocent based on something like DNA evidence. That's a big one that we're getting a lot of things overturned. Like this person was found, not only that they weren't the person, that the DNA evidence show it was this other person. That's a huge one. So if you are just listening to the podcast, I am showing, it's called wrongfullyconvicted.info. That's the website we're talking about. So we're just kind of looking over it. And Derrick's a part of that. And I haven't mentioned it yet, but Derrick's Instagram is Top Notch Legal. So check him out on Instagram at Top Notch Legal. And what else? Is that all I got for you there? Yeah, okay, that's all I got for you. And then, yeah, obviously Derrick's whole story. But yeah, sir, I'm glad we showed that. There are several articles, now that I'm thinking about it, of Derrick's. I got his linked tree up here. I think that's what it's called, right?
Link tree. Link tree.
I got his link tree up on the site, on the thing here. It's at Derrick Hamilton. That's his link tree. So you can check that out. What else have we got? Oh, and then his New York Times article. So that's the next part I want to get to, Derrick. So you do this time. You get yourself out of prison, which is phenomenal. I'm just the fact that, and this is why I'm so in awe of Aaron. Aaron got 53-year sentence, and the kid he exhausted all his appeals, and then his attorney recommended to him to write up something and send it to the district attorney, the one that was, and it's not even the same district attorney that he had dealt with. So he sent it, and it was basically an appeal in itself, and that's how he won. He got himself out. So, but Derrick, that's what you did. You got yourself out.
I would like to commend Aaron for that because a lot of times, people give up. And the fact that he was able to artfully write something that the prosecutor would accept and agree to is really astonishing. In my situation, there was no laws in New York State that recognized the innocent person right to file post-conviction motions. And because they didn't have that, what happened was I had to create it. So after all my appeals was exhausted and several post-conviction motions was denied, I wrote a new post-conviction motion, and I argued that reasonable people, conscious, would be shocked to learn that the system would treat me this way, despite all this evidence that I had that I was innocent, that they was just throwing it in the garbage because of procedural reasons, because there was no mechanism in New York State that mandated the court to recognize innocence claims and to give innocent people hearings. Luckily for me, um, the parole board, not the courts, the parole board looked at the evidence, and they said, "Look, young man, we do agree with you that there's a lot of evidence here that establishes that you're innocent, but we can't determine your innocence. Only we can determine should you be paroled or not. And based on that evidence of innocence, we're going to parole you, and we're going to wish you luck in going out there and proving your innocence." So I was paroled in 2011, and while I was paroled, my litigations from the motions pro se that I had made was pending. And I had wrote to the attorney by the name of Edelstein and Grossman, Jonathan Edelstein and Bobby Grossman. And I said, "Look, man, all I got is, I think, $3,500 or $1,500, whatever I had in my commissary." And I was like, "Look, man, I'll give you guys this money if you just represent me on this motion." And John wrote back and he said, "Look, I can't take your money. That your motion was done great, that you argued everything you're supposed to argue. What I will do is I'll write a Friends of the Court brief, an Amos Curry brief to the courts and tell them that they should give you a hearing."
What is it called?
It's the Amos Curry brief in Latin terms, but in English it's called the Friend of the Court. So he wrote as a lawyer and a friend of the court. He told the court that the law mandated that they give me a hearing on all this evidence that I had that I was innocent. When the court denied it, he said, "You know what? I will take your case to the appellate division for free. That you don't have to pay me. You did all the work that you had to do." And luckily for us, we won the appeal. And the appellate division ruled for the first time in New York history that innocent people had to have a hearing. And the court must hear all of the evidence once and for all and make a determination. And if you find that the evidence proves they're innocent, you can't retry them because no jury can convict an innocent person. So, I mean, that changed the law in New York State. It opened the door for so many people. People versus Hamilton is the citation in my case. And it got me exonerated because once the state court knew that they had to hear all the evidence, and they knew all the evidence proved that I was innocent. The ballistics evidence proved I was innocent. Eyewitnesses proved I was innocent. All the stuff the jury didn't hear, detective testimony, all this stuff, eyewitness was police officers who was present with me in New Haven, Connecticut when the murder happened, never testified before the court. So, I mean, they changed the dynamics of everything, but it was only because I would file motion after motion, pro se motion after motion, because I know I was right. And when courts was making decisions that was wrong, it was my obligation to set the record straight. Because if I didn't, then the record would be left off as the courts left it off, which was totally inaccurate. So for me, it was just making sure that I got the last word and that the last word was the truth, right? I couldn't let them distort the truth because in order to keep you in prison if you're innocent, they have to distort the truth, right? If they tell the truth, you get out. So you have to be persistent. Despite what the law says, sometimes you have to create new law. Sometimes you have to say that the law as it now exists is unconstitutional. And I did that a lot. When I went to the parole board, I argued with them for 2 years. I said, because your parole board is designed to deal with guilty people. How about all these innocence project cases where guys is being exonerated every day, right? So we know that there's innocent people in prison that don't have DNA, right? If you got all these DNA innocent people, how many people that don't have it? Well, I'm one that don't have DNA in my case, and I'm innocent. So I had to make them, first believe that there's innocent people in prison, and second, look at the evidence. Because for 2 years they didn't want to hear the evidence that I was innocent. Like, no, we don't look at that. It's not our job. Why do we look at that? Like, courts convicted you. Our job is to determine if. And I'm saying, well, you want me to admit that I killed somebody. You want me to show remorse for something I didn't do, right? You're putting the burden on me that shouldn't be here because I didn't do this. So, you have the power. I had to tell them where their power lies. I had to cite the law to them. This particular statute gives you the power to do this. And then I had to compel them by filing civil rights complaints and stuff like that against the parole board to compel them to enjoin them and do acts enjoined upon by law. So, for the average layman or the uneducated person, this is a task that can't be done. I mean, this is a task. And kids, I don't know if you're watching, but this is what school is about. This is what, my biggest weapon was the fact that I went to public school. So I had a good reading comprehension, right? In prison, it was bigger than any physical component I ever had that I can think, and that's why I'm in the position I'm at.
Dude, how in 20 plus years, like that's the hardest part for me to wrap my mind to. This is where I get choked up, as I'm just sitting there thinking like I would have gave up after 5 years. Like I don't even know what the number is, but when I know everybody. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by HRH Combat Arms. They can turn your vision into reality. They specialize in gunsmithing and Cerakoting. Your Cerakote specialist is Air Force veteran and retired police sergeant Paul Ware, aka the Sarge. He can Cerakote your firearms, auto parts, tools, even your sports equipment. This veteran-owned business is located at 5025 Saunders Suite 103, Fort Worth, Texas 76119. You can call them at 682-304-0363, and you can find them online at www.hrhcombatarms.com. That's www.hrhcombatarms.com. That has a opportunity to help me is looking at me as a guilty person. How do you keep the mentality to keep pushing? Like I would get, I'm maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit because I'm not in your position. I can never actually comprehend it. But how do you keep the mindset that fuck you guys, I'm innocent, and this is it?
Well, it's all about one, how you raise. Culturally for me, I was raised in an environment that always pushed you to fight back, and no matter what situation you was in. And spiritually, believing in something higher than you, bigger than you, grasping holding on to that when everything else goes. But it was therapeutic for me, and reading law books, right, and knowing that I was right, and knowing that when I go before the court, the judge even said I was right. Right? For a whole year, he said I can't get this guy a day in jail, let alone 15 to 25 years. And throughout the whole post-conviction process, he would yell at the prosecutor, scream at the prosecutor, and say, I can let this guy go right now. And you can do nothing about it. We all know that this witness never saw the crime. So it's those moments in which you're almost out. I mean, which you got the judge yelling and screaming, and you know that you was almost out. And you keep fighting because you know that you're hoping or you're praying that there'd be somebody to listen.
The
Um,
judge said that?
listen, this is why the parole board let me go. I showed them all the instances in which the judge admitted that I was innocent, which the judge admitted that the sole witness against me lied, which the judge admitted that had the jury heard that evidence, I'd have been acquitted. This is stuff that the parole board was able to look at and see and say, crazy, how did this happen? How did the system keep this guy in here 20 something years?
And that's
Um,
going to be court record.
Yeah, right. And that's what I used. I gave them all of the court record. I said, this evidence proves that I didn't commit this murder. This evidence proves that they got it wrong. Yet and still, I'm here because the judge just didn't have the balls to let me go. And that was a problem. So, and we talk about judges. We talked about that earlier, right? I mean, in Vincent Simmons' case, another one, 44 years. The judge admitted that Vincent's constitutional rights was violated. We had to compel the judge to let Vincent go. We had to go to CBS and put him on TV and embarrass him, and these are the things you have to do sometimes because of the political system and the way it is, it's designed to be. Everybody know each other, the good old boy system. If they tell a judge you're a bad person, if they tell a judge, I don't think you should do that. I don't think you should let this guy go. He's going home to kill somebody, judge. I'm telling you, that judge is listening to a prosecutor. He's listening. Why would the prosecutor lie? Why would they come in here and make this up? In my case, the first thing I did when we was talking to prosecutors, I said, look, before we start negotiating on my innocence, I want y'all to first admit that you lied. When you said I had a large scale drug organization that did all these violent things in my community, and they admitted it. They said we lied. We did lie to the judge. And so that was the starting point of good negotiation. Because they refused that. I was walking out of the room and I told them that. We gotta, if you're gonna do right, you gotta start out there being honest and admitting that you made a mistake. And they did that. So, it's just system isn't perfect. We're not perfect. But as we continue to work on making it better and making ourselves better, I think that we can make a better system. For me, studying law was therapeutic, right? It was really therapeutic. New York has law libraries. A lot of states don't. I was able to get legal books every single day. I was able to study. I was able to make sure that whenever I went to court, that I was the smartest person in that room, that I knew my case better than anybody else. I knew the procedures that related to my case better than anybody else. And no matter what they did, I wanted to make sure that transcript, that record indicated that I was being railroaded. Right? It had to come out that way because that's what was going on.
Yeah,
And I challenged them every single time.
man, that dude. I can't. I'm hoping this is what I would like to see in the future. I'm still in the system. I'm still a part of the system. So for me, I'm also an instructor. Like I'm a Texas certified instructor. I teach, I do all that stuff. And I would love to just stay in contact with you.
Yes.
And you can keep pointing things out to me because I'm in the wheelhouse, man. And if there's stuff that can be cut off at the pass, I'd love to cut it off now. Like if there's something that develops because policing is always changing, and we got body cameras now. I'm sure something's going to develop where a rule needs to be changed or altered or whatever it is. But somebody like you that's advocating for the other side, if somebody like me who's advocating for the side that's trying to put people away, you know, if we can work together, like that's the whole point of my podcast is like, I am trying to bridge these gaps. There's no reason. It's not a us versus them. It's not Derrick versus Levine. Like we need to work together to improve things. And that's like you said, it's a team effort all around.
Well, I tell you something that's being developed. I think California is the first one that's doing this. And Barry Scheck was educating me on this a couple of months ago. I think they got some law in California or some pilot program in which they're licensing police officers, right? So that you get a license as you would get in any other field of work. And if you do some things uh, that violates the rules, they take your license away, right? And I don't know how long, but Barry was giving me a little bit of background on it, and he was like, "Look, this is where we headed at in this country, right? I don't know how far it's going to go, but it's a pilot program out there." And to me, right, it makes sense, right? It makes sense because everything in this, look, you take an oath. So what's the difference if you take an oath and your license? But I think they regulate it more uh, by the license. 'Cause they got databases now in a lot of these big cities that if you put a cop name in, it shows how many times he was sued, how many times he disciplined, how many times he was accused of this, and lawyers are sharing it, how many times he's supposed to lie in court or whatever it may be. But they're saying that have the database and have no ability to discipline means nothing. So California going a step further and creating licenses. And they're saying if you get any of these offenses, we can pull your license until you,
Okay.
whatever it may be, get therapy or you get counseling or you get reprimand or you get suspended. It doesn't mean you lose your actual job. It just means that your license may be suspended the same way they do lawyers, same way they do
Yeah.
prosecutors, right? And we see how far that goes. But I know there's some type of pilot program they're doing in California. Barry was telling me. But again, you know, we talking about cops. How about
Yeah.
prosecutors? How about prosecutors? How
Yeah.
about judges? Right? You make the cop the fall guy. Right? Let's just look at it.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna license them and you're gonna pull their license, they say, well, we could pull a prosecutor license, but when do you do it? Right? You can, but when is it done?
Never seen it.
When is it done? So thank you for having me. I definitely look forward to joining you anytime you want me. I will come back. I want to maybe announce the law school we're going to be at and see if Josh would join me to give you some of his wisdom. A very smart guy. But and I would thank law enforcement, man, in Texas, man, all you guys that work with you and law enforcement around the country that's doing the right thing, man. I want you guys to know that I support you. All the first responders, I want you guys to know that I support you. That when we was having COVID in New York City, I was out feeding first responders. And that's on our website too. When you look at it, I'm definitely supportive of all you guys. I'm not anti-police. I'm not anti-prosecutor or anti-judges or anti-first responders. We're all human beings. We on this fight to make America great. Let's do what we got to do.
Amen, brother. Amen. Well, I appreciate you being on, man. And like I said, I'm so excited for the next chapter in your life. I don't want to dwell on obviously the bad parts in the past, but hell, you're doing the damn thing now. You're doing good stuff. You're helping out other people that were in your shoes, and I love it, man. I'm glad you agreed to be on here and share your message.
Thanks for having me, man. And tell your guy to reach out, man. I want to help him on that conviction.
I
Salute
got
to
you.
you and your staff, brother.